Yeah,
It's not easy to see.
the color is not such a contrast, but that's what I found to write with. Okay. It's April 26, 2026, and we're studying from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 9, entitled Brahma's Prayers for Creative Energy. Okay. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayamudiraya. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and to Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavat Yutamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Canto 3, through Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 9, and we're on text 8. Text 8. So 3, 9, 8. Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Brahma speaking. So it's the same cadence, the same meter as the Brahma Samhita. Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajami. 14 syllables in the meter. So we'll start with the Sanskrit words responsively. Hello, Sylvan, they're in England, and Yurka Arjuna, they're in Czech, and Gopi Vallabha, I'm assuming in Gainesville, maybe somewhere else, and Aditya from New Jersey. Hello, so New Jersey, hello Aditya, hello Gopi Vallabha, Hare Krishna. Kshut Trit, Tri Datu Bir, Ima, Muhur, Arjamana, Shitoshna, Vata, Varasher, Itare Tarach, Cha, Kamagni Nachuta, Rusha, Cha, Sudur Barena, Sampashyato, Mana, Urukrama, Sidate, May, Kshutrit Trida Tubir Ima Muhu Arjamana. Shitoshna Varasher Itare Tarachcha. Shitoshna Varasher Itare Tarachcha. Kamagni Na Chutarusha Chasudur Barena. Kamagni Na Chutarusha Chasudur Barena. Sampashyato Mana Uru Kramasidate Me. Sampashyato Mana Uru Kramasidate Me. Kshut Trida Tubir Imamu Arjamana. Kshut Trida Tubir Imamu Arjamana. Shitoshna Vata Varasher Itare Tarachcha. Shitoshna Vata Varasher Itare Tarachcha. Kab Magni Nachutarusha Chasudur Barena. Kab Magni Nachutarusha Chasudur Barena. Sam Pashyato Mana Uru Kramasidhate Me. Sampashyato Mana Uru Kramasidhate. Kshutrit Trida Tubir Imamur Arjamana. Kshutrit Trida Tubir Imamur Arjamana. Shitoshna Vata Varasher Itare Tarachcha. Shitoshna Vata Varasher Itare Tarachcha. Kamagni Nachutarusha Chasudur Barena. Kamagni Nachutarusha Chasudur Barena. Sampashyato Mana Uru Kramasidate Me. Sampashyato Mana Uru Kramasidate Me.
Tri hatu bir imamuhur adyamana.
Shoot, tree, dot, to be.
Sitoshna vata varasher itaretaracha.
Shitoshna vata varasher itaretaracha.
Kama ni achutarusha chasudurbarena.
Kamagnina chutarusha chasudurbarena.
Sampashyato mana uru kramasida teme.
Sampashyato manahuru kramasida teme.
Shoot, treat, hot, tabir, ima, mahur, radamena.
Shoot, trida, tubir, imamuhur arjamana.
Shitash, nabata, arashner, itarishtarachha.
Shitoshna vata varasher itaretaracha.
Kama, nigachuta, rushnacha, shudur, barena.
Kamagnina chutarusha chasudurbarena.
Sampashyato mana ura kramasita terma.
Sampashyato manahuru kramasida teme.
Treat hot babir ena alhar at yamana.
Shoot, trida, tubir, ima, muhur arjamana.
Sitoshna vata varaser itaracha.
Shitoshna vata varasher itaratcha.
Kama ina achute rusacha sudurbarena.
Kamagnina chutarusha chasudurbarena.
Sampasyato mana yurak ramasitatene.
Sampashyato manahuru kramasida teme. Hare Krishna. Would anyone online like to lead the chanting of the text? Okay, we'll study the word meanings. Kshut, hunger. Trit, thirst. Tridatubi, three humors, namely mucus, bile, and wind. Ima, all of them. Muhu, always. Arjamana, perplexed. Shita, winter. Ushna, summer. Vata, wind. Varashai, by rains. Iterat, and many other disturbances. Cha, also. Kama Agnina, by strong sex urges. Achutarusha, indefatigable anger. Cha, also. Sudur Barena, most unbearable. Sampashyata, so observing. Mana, mind. Urukrama, O great actor. Siddhate, becomes despondent. May, my. Translation. O great actor, my lord, all these poor creatures are constantly perplexed by hunger, thirst, severe cold, secretion, and bile, attacked by coughing winter, blasting summer, rains, and many other disturbing elements, and overwhelmed by strong sex urges and indefatigable anger. I take pity on them, and I am very much aggrieved for them. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. A pure devotee of the Lord, like Brahma, and persons in his disciplic succession, and that's us, we are in the disciplic succession of Brahma. The name of our disciplic succession is the Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya, through His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. As we've discussed, I think last Sunday, that there's four bona fide Vaishnava disciplic successions. One goes through Goddess Lakshmi, one goes through the four Kumaras, one goes through Shiva, Lord Shiva, and the other goes through Brahma. So here we're hearing from Brahma. A pure devotee of the Lord like Brahma and persons in his disciplic succession are always unhappy to see the perplexities of the conditioned souls who are suffering the onslaughts of the threefold miseries which pertain to the body and mind, to the disturbances of material nature, and to many other such material disadvantages. Not knowing adequate measures for relieving such difficulties, suffering persons sometimes pose themselves as leaders of the people, and the unfortunate followers are put into further disadvantages under such so-called leadership. This is like a blind man's leading another blind man to fall into a ditch. Therefore, unless the devotees of the Lord take pity on them and teach them the right path, their lives are hopeless failures. The devotees of the Lord who voluntarily take the responsibility of raising the foolish materialistic sense enjoyers are as confidential to the Lord as Lord Brahma. Hare Krishna. Om Ganatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanditamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagat Pate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatu Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. We're studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 9, Text 8. Kshutrit Trida Tubir Ima Muhur Arjamana Shitoshnavat Varasher Itare Tarachcha Kamagninat Chutarusha Chasudur Barena Sampashito Nauru Krama Siddhateme. O great actor, my lord, all these poor creatures are constantly perplexed by hunger, thirst, severe cold, secretion, and bile, attacked by coughing winter, blasting summer rains, and many other disturbing elements, and overwhelmed by strong sex urges and indefatigable anger. I take pity on them, and I am very much aggrieved for them. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay, so so we often mention about how the material context, human context, it's intrinsically disturbing. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Mo pentyut konteya dugalaya mashashvatam. It's a temporary place full of miseries, Material happiness. Happiness is like a relative relief from misery. It's not the positive happiness of the soul. And actually, sometimes following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, sometimes we categorize the types of disturbances and problems into 16 different categories, and we're just following, following Ishopanishad, Bhagavad Gita, like that. And so the verse and purport refers to the different elements of those categories, the 16 categories, sometimes in the same language we're used to, and sometimes in different language. Sometimes we'll talk about like eating, sleeping, mating, defending, and the different disturbances that come from eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Here it talks about hunger. So the idea of eating, because we'll be hungry, like that, or defending, we won't have a roof over our head. We need to make sure we have sufficient insurance policies, and then finally we'll be satisfied and fulfilled, and that sort of thing. And not that we shouldn't endeavor for alleviating the miseries of rainstorms and things like that. Sure, let's do that, and at the same time, as Epictetus, the Greek philosopher, said, the essence of all philosophy is to live one's life such that one's happiness depends as little as possible on external things. So this is about cultivating realization that it's an illusion, that once I fix the disturbances and get them to go away, then finally life will be Disney World, as it should be. And so Bhagavatam is saying, no material life, no material. Abrahma bhuvanaloka punarvartanojana mamapechit kante punarjanma nabhijite, from the highest planetary system, the most heavenly planetary system, to the lowest. They're all temporary places full of miseries. Okay. And so then, to the extent that we're realized, we respond to those miseries, to use an analogy I think we're all familiar with, like in kitten consciousness rather than mouse or rat consciousness, means we respond to the miseries with deepened enthusiasm for self-realization, to quote Rishabhadev speaking to his sons, headed by Bharat. Tapo divyam puchaki nasatvam shudyad yasma brahma sokyam tvanantam. Go for that ever-increasing bliss that comes from bhakti, comes from devotional service, and that's a bliss that is truly unstoppable. That's a bliss that's truly unstoppable, and that's the Bhagavatam. It emphasizes bhakti to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and so it's kind of like historically, or even like now, like what goes in the name of Vedas, or like that. The idea is like, well, there's like karma, karma. Be good now and fulfill your responsibility to go to heaven and enjoy like anything. Or jnana, well, all that enjoyment won't be satisfying. It's all the reflected, illusory banyan tree, to reference that analogy at the beginning of the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And so go for detachment and merging into the oneness. And in many, both historically, meaning hundreds and thousands of years ago, and in the present day, the idea of bhakti, many regard, bhakti's, it's not really a serious path. It's, I'm not meaning to perpetuate stereotypes, but bhakti's for like old women and children. No, really. It's like for old women and children who like stories, Krishna stealing the butter. Okay, yeah, because like you can't handle philosophy. So you go to Krishna stealing and then dancing with the gopis. It's not like a serious process. for like intellectually grave and serious people. So we'll hear that sometimes. And and so that yeah, maybe as a preliminary to Gyan and like the merging into the oneness, which is like the real goal, you can hear these cute stories or something like that, Okay. So that's kind of where bhakti's been relegated to, and then our sampradaya through our parampara, which is highly literate, philosophical, scholarly. Then from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Goswamis and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Srila Prabhupada, then it's revealed. No, actually, bhakti is the goal of all the Vedas, as we hear in chapter 15, Vedeshcha Saveraham Vevedyo Vedantakrit Vedavit Evachaham. Bhakti mam abhijanati yavanyash tasmi tatvata tatumam tatvato gyatva visate tadanantaram. The goal of all the jnana and the karma is to come to bhakti. That's the goal of all the scholarly study. Bahunam janmananante jnanavan mam prapadyante vasudeva sarvamiti samhatma sudurlabha. Bhagavad Gita describes that like those scholars who are sincere, maybe after many lifetimes they come to the point of surrendering themselves heart and soul to Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead. So bhakti's, so this Bhagavatam, the bhakti line, it's rigorously philosophical, logical, rational. And simultaneously, it is relentlessly emotional and devotional simultaneously. And so there is the Vedanti tat tatvavidas tatvam yajganamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate. There are three general aspects of realization of the Absolute, and the realization of the Brahman is one aspect, and realization of Bhagavan Sri Krishna as the source of Brahman, as we've been discussing in our Bhagavad Gita course, Brahmano hi pratishtaham. Krishna, Bhagavad Gita establishes the Brahman, Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Krishna is the source of the Brahman, so that's the most complete realization of the Absolute. And so, so Brahma, with great compassion here, he says, he's feeling pity, he's feeling empathy. He's aggrieved for the suffering conditioned souls who are so disturbed by 16 categories of miseries, some of which are described here. And it's described, again, the word Shitoshna is here. Maybe some of the Pandits here recognize Shitoshna. Okay, you're all familiar, many of you are familiar with Dihinosmi nitadehe kamaram yovinamja tatade hantara praktirtirasta chanamuyati. That's a verse that sometimes when I'm in a playful mood, I'll lock someone in my house until they've memorized that verse. I've been known to do that. Okay, it's all from the volunteer like that, but anyhow, I've been accused of that. So, I did that to you once. So there you go. She's laughing, but inside there could be some other feeling. Okay, so anyhow, so that's as the embodied soul continually passes from this body, from childhood to youth to old age body, the soul similarly passes into another body at the time of death. Dhirasta Chanamurti, the sober person, the self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. We realize you're not the body, you're the spirit soul. I'm not this body. I'm the spirit soul that passes through a baby body and a teenage body and young man, middle age, into elderly years. Okay, but the spirit soul stays the same spiritual person. So Dhira means, like my spiritual name, Dhira Govinda Das. I'm a servant of Govinda, Sri Krishna, who's not disturbed by the material energy. So to the extent that we give ourselves to the bhakti path, then we're not disturbed by the disturbances. Then the next verse after Dihinosmin, it goes like this. Matra sparshas tu kanteya shitoshna. Same word as this verse. Shitoshna. This verse is shitoshna vata varashir. So shitoshna is translated here as winter and summer. It's just, Bhagavatam is just a follow-up on Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, Matras Prashastu Konteya Shitoshna Sukadukada Agamapainu Nijas Tamsti Tiksha Bharata. He says, O Scion of Bharat, the appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are just like the appearance and disappearance of the winter and summer seasons, heat and cold. And so to progress in spiritual life, we need to not be disturbed. Oh, it's too hot. It's too cold. Same thing. Oh, my financial situation is terrible. It's doing great. I've been honored. People love me. I'm being insulted and condemned and ridiculed. Okay, this is just like, so to the extent that we're self-realized, we just continue enthusiastically with our devotional service. And then the next verse, that would be 2.15 Bhagavad Gita. Yam hi navyatayante pujam pushar shaba samaduka sukham dira somitatvaya kalpate. Again, dira. Dira means the sober, self-realized person. Acknowledges this world, it's not meant to be Disneyland. And then when there's all those disturbances, hunger, dishonor, disturbances, then not disturbed. And then Krishna says, that's the platform for liberation. That's the platform for liberation. So Brahma, out of compassion, following in the footsteps of other great Mahajans, great devotees of Krishna like Prahlad Maharaj, he's feeling compassion, and it's not sentimental compassion. It's not sentimental, just, oh, I feel so bad for the suffering of all the world. It's compassion accompanied with knowledge. Not just knowledge, like intellectual, but realized knowledge how to relieve the suffering souls in material illusion, how to relieve them of the very root of the disturbance and the misery. Knowledge of the distinction between body and soul, bayam dvitiya binivesha tasyat, to the extent that we misidentify the temporary body with the eternal soul, we're going to be suffering like anything. We're going to be miserable. We're going to be distanced from the original joy of the soul. And so, yes, there's in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 also, Krishna uses the term kamakami, somewhat like kamikaze. So kama means lust. Okay, it is like kamikaze. So kamakami means one whose desire is to increase the desire. Okay, let me just increase the desire. We're in chapter 16 in our Bhagavad Gita course now, and so like that's the non-devotional mentality. Just like, okay, well, I have this much money, and I have this much control, and this much influence and fame, and I'll increase it more and more and more. Ishvaraham ham bhogi sarvaham balavan sukhi, and like that. And so Krishna says that's kamakami, where the desire is to increase material desire, and it's self-sabot, like a kamikaze. I mean, it's a suicide mission. That's spiritual suicide. That's spiritual suicide. Now, I mean, I'm using that term suicide in a metaphorical way. It's not that the soul is ever actually annihilated, but we're actually showing envy of ourself, envy of our original blissful nature, when we're making kamakami existence our goal. And so So for actual happiness, for the actual joy of the soul means, well, it involves giving up. It involves becoming desireless. Now, following in the line of Srila Prabhupada, you've often, probably everyone here heard me say at least once, if not 40 times or more, that like, yes, just become desireless. And we can hear that in different, if you go to the Buddhist center or whatever, like that. And yeah, because we get the desire for food, desire for sex, desire for honor, desire, just give up desire, because the desire implicates us in so much misery for ourselves and others, and that's true. And so the solution is just to give up all desire. The only problem is it's completely impossible. So like, okay, I'm going to just really desire to give up desire intensely. But wait a second, that's kind of, how's that work? Okay, so at the same time, Bhagavatam does talk about desirelessness. Desirelessness in the bhakti sense means we're transforming the quality of our desire to desire only to satisfy Krishna. Only to satisfy Krishna. So that's material desirelessness. That's material desirelessness. Okay, so and with the soul's going to desire, and if we desire only to satisfy Krishna, it's not this disconnected desire, disconnected from the core of our being. And the core of our being, our nature, is bhakti. Nitya siddha Krishna prema sajika bunoi shravanadi shuddha chitte karye udai. Karye udai. That bhakti, love of Krishna, is eternally situated in the hearts of all living entities. And so desire to serve Krishna, that's just the natural expression of the soul. So that's when we hear desirelessness, that's what Srila Prabhupada, that's what's meant here. And then representing the parampara, representing Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada, he gives us a roadmap, he gives us clear guidance on what's that mean to satisfy Krishna, to desire to serve. What would that look like if I desired to satisfy Krishna rather than material desires? And that's all. That's the process of bhakti given to us by Srila Prabhupada. Perfectly authorized, perfectly authentically representing the line of Srimad Bhagavatam, starting from Krishna, then Brahma, who we're hearing from today. And we'll be hearing from, well, at the rate we're going, for a few years. Okay? Because yeah. It's true. So, okay. And, yes, and Srimad Bhagavatam starts, the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because this is Vyasadeva speaking. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth, and the source. So Vyasadeva is in bhakti trance in connection with Krishna. Then the second verse, Dharma Projita Koitavatra. Koitava means cheating, completely rejecting all so-called religious activities that are materially motivated. This Bhagavat Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understood by those devotees who are completely free from cheating propensity, completely pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. So that's where Bhagavatam starts, and we go there again and again and again. Dharma Pochitava Kortavachara Paramonima Saranam Satam Vejam Bastavam Atrabastu Shivadam Tapo Trion Mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krita Kim Bapara Ishvara Saja Vija Barujate Trakrita Bishu Shushabis Tatkshanat. So the verse talks about threefold miseries and fourfold. We got 16 categories. We go there in some of our Safatov seminars. And then Prabhupada refers to the threefold miseries, who are suffering the onslaughts of the threefold miseries which pertain to the body and mind, to the disturbances of material nature, and to many other such material disadvantages. So miseries coming from our own body and mind. We like to quote Mark Twain in that regard. I've been through many terrible things in my life, and some of them actually happened in such a witty way, illustrating miseries that our mind creates, as if there aren't enough in the world. And then miseries coming from natural disturbances, miseries coming from other living entities, whether people, family members, neighbors. Yes, there we go, dogs and mosquitoes, barking dogs at 2 a.m. Yes, Bhagavatam describes it all. This is it gives us reality. And there's the fourfold miseries: birth, death, old age, disease. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, this is wisdom, realizing the inherent, he says, evil, having evil, the inherent shame and embarrassment to be forced to be stuck in a body that's subject to birth, death, old age, disease. The idea isn't to like feel shame or whatever. Well, we can feel some shame if we let that move us to like, yeah, I want to get out of this place. I don't want to just get into a different prison cell. Let me really go for liberation. And the path and the process, that's bhakti. The path and the process, that's bhakti. I mentioned Prahlad Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada references him. Doesn't say his name, but he's referencing a verse from Prahlad Maharaj. And Prabhupada's talking about leadership here. Now, leadership can be conceived as a position or a role or a title. Essentially, leadership is a choice. It's a way of being. Krishna talks about leadership a lot in Bhagavad Gita. Yad yad acharati shreshtas tatad eve terojana sayat pramanam kurute lokas tadonuvartate. Krishna says whatever a great influential person does, others will follow. So we're all leaders through our way of being with people in our life, and whether it's where we work or where we play or where we serve or how we show up at the post office or the supermarket. So like, we're responsible. What's the consciousness we're giving? What's the quality of being, doing, and having that we're giving? So Prabhupada talks not in a not very complimentary way about like world leaders here. He's speaking generally. Not knowing adequate measures for relieving such difficulties, suffering persons sometimes pose themselves as leaders of the people, and the unfortunate followers are put into further disadvantages under such so-called leadership. This is like a blind man's leading another blind man to fall into a ditch. So we say, I'll help you if you just vote for me, like that. And that's okay. There's nothing intrinsically wrong or harmful about the political arena. It's a human arena. Idam pumsas tapasashu tasya sutasya sviktasya chapudi datayo avitruturta kabibir nirupito yadutamashloka gunanu varnanam. Narada Muni says to Vyasa, Narada Muni is the spiritual master of Vyasadeva. That's our line. It starts with Krishna, then Brahma, then Narada Muni, then Vyasadeva. Okay, that's the first four. And then number 32 is Srila Prabhupada. Number 5 is Madhvacharya. And yeah, it's a whole line. So Narada Muni says to Vyasadeva, he says politics, economics, psychology, business, education, science, chemistry, physics, social work, social science, these are all respectable fields of human endeavor. They're not meant to be rejected. They're not meant to be rejected. But rather, they're meant to be used to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada's been mentioned saying that, like, well, for the most part, those in political leadership, they don't know how to uproot the very root of suffering. And so it's just, I have this plan, and it doesn't get to the very root of eliminating material desire and transforming the quality of desire to satisfy Krishna, to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada's referencing Sri Prahlad Maharaj, who says, Andaya Tandeo, the full verse, Nate vidu svartakatim hi vishnum darashaye bahir artamanina, Andaya Tandeo paniyamana te pisha chancham udamni badha. Prahlad Maharaj says it's like the blind following the blind. And yeah, I'll trust you, and then we all fall into a ditch. And that's material leadership that's ignorant of core spiritual principles, as described in Bhagavatam. And Prahlad Maharaj says, and then through such blind following the blind type of so-called leadership, or actually misleadership, then everyone in the whole system just becomes more and more entangled in the complicated meshes of the cycle of birth and death, and hunger, thirst, severe cold, hatred, envy, etc., etc. Strong sex urges, indefatigable anger. It's described in Bhagavad Gita. Concise psychology. Jayato vishyam pumsa sankasteshu bhajayate sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodo bhajayate. While contemplating the objects of the senses, one develops attachment for them. From attachment, yes, and then from attachment, Daito Vishampu Sanskat Sanjayate Kama. From attachment comes lust. Lust means, oh, I don't want it. I need that. I need that gratification. And then our lust is frustrated, and then comes anger, and then our whole body is polluted by anger, and the relationships are polluted by toxic anger like that. Of course, anger is also a divine emotion that can be processed, experienced, and used in truly sattvic and even divine ways. And so then Srila Prabhupada ends this concise yet brilliant and amazing purport. Yeah. Therefore, unless the devotees of the Lord take pity on them and teach them the right path, their lives are hopeless failures. Meaning that whatever success one achieves, if we continue to implicate ourselves in the complicated meshes of the disturbances of the cycle of birth, death, old age, disease, and that's like an unfortunate failure. So Srila Prabhupada is appreciating Brahma and Prahlad Maharaj and their compassion. Not centered, compassion accompanied by knowledge, how to relieve one of suffering. Transformational, transcendental knowledge that uproots the root of material disturbance. The devotees of the Lord who voluntarily take the responsibility of raising the foolish materialistic sense enjoyers are as confidential to the Lord as Lord Brahma. That's quite a statement. There's a place in Bhagavatam, second canto, where at one point Krishna personally comes, and it's described, he shakes Brahma's hand. It's like, no, I'm really appreciating. He shakes his hand. I mean, sometimes the God embraces, but he shakes his hand. So like this, it's like, I really appreciate the service you're doing. Congratulations. You know, it means so much to me, and very personal. So Prabhupada's saying that to the extent, we don't want to imitate Brahma or Prabhupada, but we can endeavor to follow in their footsteps. Mahajano yena gata sapanta, follow in the footsteps of great souls. So, and so by following the footsteps, by cultivating compassion and knowledge, and then sharing that. We read this morning before Japa from the 7th chapter of the Majji Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking to the Kurma Brahmin, to the Kurma Brahmin in South India. And there's different devotees some devotees who really focus on Sitaram or the Kurma avatar, different expansions of Krishna for their bhakti. So the Kurma Brahmin, he had personal association with Lord Chaitanya, and he was like in his family and whatever, he had his employment, whatever business, whatever it was, but he was just like, I just want to like come with you. Just like I just want to come with you. You're going back to Jagannath Puri. That's it. I want to leave everything, come with you. That's what I want to do. And that's what I want to do. Just follow you. Hare Krishna. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no. He said, no, don't do that. No, I don't recommend that. I don't recommend. In fact, I won't accept that. The Lord Chaitanya said, Yare Dekatareka Krishna Pradesh Amaragayat Guru Hanatare Desh. He said, no, just you stay where you are. You're with your family and your community, your village, and your colleagues, your friend. You just stay here and cultivate Krishna consciousness and share it. Cultivate Krishna consciousness and share it from wherever you are. And then in that way, be a guru in the true sense. Don't in the name of renunciation and spirituality, don't be irresponsible. You stay where you are. Kiba Vipa Kiba Nyasi. Say Guru Haya. Ye Krishna Tattva Vedas. Ye Krishna Tattva Veda. Say Guru Haya. Sudra Kene. Nyaya. Yes. So, Lord Chaitanya, just become expert. Become proficient in the distinctions and nuances and subtleties of Ye Krishna Tattva, in the science of Krishna, the science of bhakti. And as you become more and more, whatever your position in society, you're a street sweeper, you're a political leader, you take care of your children, you're a scientist, you're an engineer, whatever you do, just stay where you are. Stay where you are. Cultivate expertise in the science of Krishna and share it, whether from your home or on the street or wherever you go. So we can see in the movement of Krishna, there is like the ashram temple. I was a temple devotee in a sense for like 7-8 years, from like 84 in Israel till like 92 when I came to Alachua. And I appreciate those years like that. And also a big part of the movement is like, make your home a temple. Make your body a temple. But there's a quote from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. He said, my mission is to make everyone's heart a temple of Radha Krishna, like that. Okay, and so you're right. So we don't want to be dependent on anything external. That we want to be a touchstone for transformation. Not artificially, but to cultivate that consciousness. So whether Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he established the Namhat system, quite somewhat sophisticated. Namhat means the market of the holy name of Krishna, and there's different roles in the market, and there's the seller. He says his role, he's the street sweeper in the Namhat. He's a street sweeper just to keep everything clean. That there's no deviance coming in, everything's straight, clean, straightforward. So he didn't establish any temples. It was just like Namhat, basically it means, here we are at David's house doing a program. Here we are at Rose's house in Gainesville. Here we are at Prabhupada house in Melrose. Right? And then if it's overcrowded because there's so many, okay, then expand to more home programs. So there is a place for the ashram, the temple. I'm going to do ashram life for 6 months. There's a place for that. Or some might say, I'm going to do ashram life for my whole life. There's a place for that. And it's so important. The home programs make our home a temple, make our heart a temple. And so Krishna says, coming to closure here, and in the closure of Bhagavad Gita, Nacha tasmad manushe shu kashtrame priyakritama bhavita nacha me tasmad anya priyataro bhuvi. Krishna says, those who share Bhagavad Gita, not just keep it to yourself, those who share it, Krishna said, no one's more dear to me than that devotee. So like whatever our perceptions of our inadequacies and shortcomings from wherever we're at, we endeavor to share prasadam. Okay, thank you, Aditya. Thanks for being here, and thanks for your loving pranams all throughout. I get you. Yeah, I was at times during this class speaking to you, Aditya. Actually, it's true. So I'm glad you were here. Hare Krishna. And so Krishna says, yeah, no one's more dear to me than that follower, who shares this knowledge and wisdom, whether in a home program or whether just in, not just in a connection with friends. It doesn't need to be an official program, or through the philosophy, through japa, through Harinam Sankirtan, through prasad distribution. Who's ever sharing this transcendental transformational knowledge is most dear to me. And Krishna says, ya idam paramam guyam madbhateshva vidashyati bhakti maya pram kritva mame vesyasis yasancha. And Krishna says, and one who's dedicated to sharing with others this sublime knowledge will definitely come back to me. That's the path to the other side, to the real banyan tree. So I'll stop there and I'll read the verse again. Canto 3, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 9, Text 8. Kshutrida tupir ima muhur arjamana shitoshnavata varasher hitare terachcha kamagnina chutarusha chasudur parena sampasyato manauru kramasida teme. O great actor, my lord, all these poor creatures are constantly perplexed by hunger, thirst, severe cold, secretion, and bile, attacked by coughing winter, blasting summer, rains, and many other disturbing elements, and overwhelmed by strong sex urges and indefatigable anger. I take pity on them, and I am very much aggrieved for them. Hare Krishna, thanks for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. I welcome at this time any comments, questions, realizations. At this time, I see Arjuna wrote, thank you for your class, Dhira Govinda Prabhu. I have a question. In my current situation, my employment is to distribute prasadam in a restaurant. Even though it seems as a direct devotional service, I can recognize in my mind very often some anxieties if the food will be tasty. I want to get appreciation from customers and so on. What is the recommendation to purify all these anxieties, desires for adoration and so on? Is awareness, chanting the Mahamantra, continuing the service, and desiring to purify my service sufficient? Thank you, Arjuna. Thanks for sharing. Hare Krishna. I appreciate your question and your response to your question. I don't know that I have much to add to your response. It seems right on, because awareness, because first of all, I appreciate that somehow, but due to your sincerity, you co-created with Prabhupada and Krishna and the Prabhus and Matajis there in Czech Republic. You create a situation where your service, we can say your means of living, is like you're serving, working in a prasadam restaurant. And so your service, your employment is you get to distribute prasad, prepare and distribute prasad. So that's very wonderful. That's my positive judgment. And okay, and it's like we're doing service, just like, okay, I'm getting to do the service. I'm leading a class and discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam. This is very wonderful. All right, so then, so that's the goal of life. Bhakti is the journey and it's the goal. It's the process and the goal. Other processes are not like that. bhakti, the reward for bhakti is more service. The reward for service is more service. Okay, and so yeah, so I can look at like, oh, okay, I'm doing service. How purely am I doing this? I want people to say, oh, that was a really great class, and I get appreciation and distinction. So we get to look at that. So that's what you're doing, Arjuna. You're looking at your motivations, and then Krishna says, people come to devotional service to him for different reasons. Chatur vida bhajante mam jana sukritin Arjuna artoji gasarartrati ganicha bharatarshava. People come because they want more money, or they want relief from suffering, or they're just curious, or they want some honor to be a great spiritual person. Yeah, different, less than pure motivations. And Krishna says, that's fine. And just as you answered your question, philosophically correctly, because any connection with devotional service, we get purified. And so I can see so many impurities in my attempts at service, all the services, whether conducting a Softo seminar or leading a class. At the same time, I like to think that, my motivations are more pure now than kind of when I started on the process 43 years ago, like that, or more pure than even, say, a year ago. And so through awareness and continuing in the purificatory process, then we pull the weeds, we cleanse the dust, and with that awareness, I appreciate your awareness raising, Arjuna. We get to see, okay, all right, yeah, I want to be honored. I want distinction. I want adoration. All right, so then tomorrow, let me endeavor to do the service more purely, simply, so that Srila Prabhupada will be pleased and Krishna will be satisfied. And then let me cultivate a drop more sincerity. That's what comes to me in response to your question, in response, Arjuna. Rasamita.
Krishna, Arjuna, I really appreciate your question. I can relate. I'm going to relate to you. I recently led a life mastery program class. It was like 5 hours. And afterwards, I realized I felt an energy suck. And I was like, what is this? Right? Is it, I didn't exert myself excessively. I felt very well about like application. I mention this because I have a tendency in the past, like, don't sleep, don't eat, make sure it gets done, and like destroy myself. I didn't do that. So what's going on? And I realized I have an attachment to knowing impact. And it was draining my energy. And so I thought to myself, and I think about food, prashad, it's not for me to know. It's not for me to know if it landed well, if it tasted well, if they got something out of it, because it's not about me. To whatever extent God's working through me, and it's not for me to know. And I'm not saying I'm completely realized in that, but it's just a little bit of realization. To the extent that I can let go, I will suffer less. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Rasamita. Thanks for sharing. Yeah. Arjuna, thank you a lot for this discussion. Yeah, and so it's, yeah. So you're not claiming you have like amazing realization. Same time, you got some impactful transformational realization yesterday in leading the 5 hours. You see, like you were balanced. You weren't like overextending. You were balanced. And then we looked at, oh yeah, okay, yeah, it's some attachment to the results. There's a well-known verse, second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, "Karma nyeva adhikaraste, ma paleshu kadachana, ma karma palahetur bor, mate sangastva karmani." And Krishna says to Arjuna, yeah, to fulfill your responsibility without attachment to the result, don't see yourself as the doer, and simultaneously don't be attached to not fulfilling your responsibility in all spheres. And so that was like, well, if I'm not the doer and it's I don't get to enjoy the result, and whatever, I'll just renounce it. But no. Now, of course, we might be interested in the results, and even from a pure place, to add results as feedback. It might be feedback. How can I be more effective? How can I be more effective in doing my service? And that's different than attached to the results, where it's like, people honor me, people are insulting me, and my material ego. Thanks for the discussion. Other comments, questions? Sherry?
I want to share about, yesterday I was teaching a private yoga class to a lady in Keystone Heights. My dentist, I've been going to almost 30 years. I've invited her to classes over the years, and she finally decided she didn't want to do it, but her mother could use some yoga.
Okay.
So I've been going to the mother's home, and she happens to live out in our neighborhood, which makes it nice. And yet, like, I'm trying to be as devotional and bring bhakti wherever I go,
Yeah.
and it's obviously easier at Prabhupada House because it's just right there in your face. But when I'm going out to teach yoga and to bring the bhakti into the asana yoga, and I really like doing it. Like, it's really personally satisfying to watch people in my age group over 60. Some of them are in their 80s. She is 80. Feel physical relief, and it changes their attitude, and and so now that I've done 6 or 8 sessions with her, I can see her changing her. She's open.
She's more open, yeah.
And she's older than, she's that generation behind me, so she's older than I am. But so my clients that are that age tend to be more closed than we are, and then we are, and as it goes down to when I'm with the younger girls, it's different. But I teach a lot of older women in my age group and the older age groups mostly. And so I was with her yesterday, and if I trust, what I'm noticing, just kind of relating to all this, if I trust that I don't need this job, I don't need the money from this job, I don't need to convert her to be a Hare Krishna, like if I let that go, and I just really get real with her and vulnerable with her and work with her body and on the floor with her, then the Krishna consciousness just seeps right into everything.
Very naturally.
And it just, I'm appreciating that. I'm cultivating, I'm learning how to do this because I'm faced with, she's just a perfect example, because she sees yoga as, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to be healthy, I'm going to look better, I'm going to feel better, I'm going to fit my jeans better, and I'm going to be better looking. Right. And so that's where she's coming from. And so yesterday I finally saw her come to the other side of, like, it's not about that.
Okay.
And so then the door opened, and we talked about, and so I got to bring bhakti into it, which it doesn't always, the door doesn't sling wide open all the time, but when it does, it's just so beautiful. And then I just want to stay. We end up going over the time, and it's just it's such a good, and so I'm noticing a lot of my strength or skills or whatever in sharing bhakti are really good one-on-one when there's just ample space and it's a real close, especially if it's women in my age group that I can relate to. So I was just thinking about how, when I don't think about, well, I've got to perform or be the doer, be the teacher that she invites back so I can keep this job. So, because my mind wants to do that, because it feels okay.
You can notice when your motivations are different, more pure, simply to naturally live, when more pure, then your experience is quite different. Yeah,
and I've been trying without over trying to get to this point, and so I also just noticed that because I had taught class here Thursday, and I live at Providence, like my cup stays full.
Yes.
And so then it's so much easier when I'm feeding myself in my ears, in my mouth, and in my association with lots of bhakti, when I'm fully in the flow of it, then I wouldn't not give it to her too.
Yeah.
Even though I know she's not asking, doesn't want it, doesn't think she needs it. She's mature, she's got her way of life, and yet she completely opened her heart last night and didn't flinch at anything. It's kind of miraculous when it happens, and it happens in the yoga class when there's lots of students too. But I'm just appreciating the one-on-one and kind of relating to all this of like, I really want to not be attached and not be the doer and not need to keep the employment and make the money. Like, I want it not to be that, but I'm just so ingrained in, and because I do have bills to pay and a life to lead, so I want it to be so pure. And sometimes I get to taste a teaspoon of it, and it just comes out, and there was no fear of judgment and no like, because we're in the South and we're in the rural South. It can get a little tricky over there, So I'm feeling grateful for having these opportunities to fill my cup, and the strength and leadership that you've given us and taught us and showed us how to. And when I get to come here, it feels like I get my cup all the way full, right? So I get to take it back to Prabhupada's house and really know that whoever's waiting there today gets some of that too. It makes me, I mean, like you were saying, like it's a gradual thing. And I'm impatient. I want to be really good at it right now, and I want everybody to come because it's just going to be easier if you just try this. It's going to relieve all that misery. And so I want that, but I'm just trying to learn how to not be. And I can see that there's progress. I can see that little bit of progress, and it feels really good. So I'm sharing some progress. And
thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
And I want to co-create more of that, because the one-on-one is really, I mean, really getting to know somebody in that quiet space together with just the two of us. Seems to be, because I get that opportunity all the time at Prabhupada's house, and it's just so much more genuine than when I'm in a class of 30 people and they're all different mixed things, and trying to keep it mainstream so nobody gets offended.
And you appreciate the one-on-one, like with this lady in her 80s, and you showed up with like some like purity of motivation, and you want that taste more and more.
Yeah, and I just, and I pointed out to her last night, like she says she's had 2 knee replacements, she's in great shape, and she's willing, she's happy, she's got a great attitude on life, so she naturally does the movements. And just reminding her last night, reminding me, like she feels better because she wants to feel better, like she's an open person and she's agreed to give this to herself, but it's not because of the stretching. And so really last night I was able to say, do you realize that, right? Because this is about the relationship that we're building, and it's centered on putting the one before the zeros, and she just nodded, we got it.
She got it.
Nice. It was really nice. So even though it's asana yoga, there's so much more to it when people feel vulnerable and get on the floor with you, and they've got injuries and age and issues and how they're perceived, and really to just let their heart down and open up. And I don't know, I feel how did I get to have this beautiful way of presenting bhakti in the yoga classes and at Prabhupada's house cooking and all the things that I love to do it. Like it doesn't feel like work at all. It feels beautiful. And sharing Prabhupada while I'm in that glowing, beautiful situation versus it feeling heavy. And then, like you were saying, I had some heaviness in my food preparation for Shadam for the initiation. It was just a lot for one person. I got really exhausted, and I was like, this isn't supposed to be exhausting. It's supposed to be spiritually. But my body's 64, so I was having some foot problems and some back problems, and I was doing the yoga and wearing a back brace and doing my best, but I felt like I really had to look at that, what's going on with my body, and I take good care of my body for the most part, but it was struggling, and so I had to look at what was really going on in my heart, any resentments and things like that. So that was good too. Good lesson. Learned from that.
Thanks for sharing, Lakshmi Priya.
Thank you.
I'm moved by your sharing and moved by your enthusiasm for serving with more and more purity.
It doesn't have to look like that. You know, there's this prototype, like somehow in my head there's a center, there's a Krishna house, there's a temple, there's and they have these images. If you go on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, Facebook, and you see there's these images of what people doing Krishna conscious look like, and mine never looks like that.
Yeah.
And so then I was comparing for a long time, like, am I supposed to have crowds out here jumping and chanting? We're supposed to have these huge kirtans and there's women in the kitchen. It's supposed to look like that.
Yeah.
And mine never looks like that. And I think I'm finally kind of going, well, this is mine. That's not what I'm creating here. I wouldn't mind that, but that's consistently not what's happening. So I'm voluntarily surrendering to this one-on-one and these other ways that I do it. I'm accepting of it more today than ever before.
I'm reminded, Srila Prabhupada many times, he'll say, Krishna consciousness, it's never stereotyped, never hackneyed, never stagnant. It's not in a box. Now, I have seen scenes, I've been part of scenes at Prabhupada House where there is that. Lots of people in the kitchen and jumping up and down like that. At the same time, I hear consistently, you know, what you share. I mean, there's a quote by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, and he departed in 1936, so the quote's either from the 1920s or early 30s. And he said that, and he says, personal one-on-one coaching, and he uses the term coaching in like the 30s or 20s. Personal coaching is more effective than the lecture format. Now, I give a lot of, big audience form. I mean, not big, but we have 12 here. Next Friday we'll have Safito Foundational, and so he's not saying not to do that, but he said the one-on-one coaching is more effective. So that comes to me in hearing you.
Yeah, because they're safe and there's no one in the room with us. So really, that guard is, not the first day, but as we work with them, the guard comes down, just like in a coaching session. But I never wanted to be a coach or thought I needed. I have avoided that, so I'm just wondering why I'm ending up doing that.
Yeah, without giving it a title or a role. Or you're mentoring them in their bhakti.
Okay.
Rasamrita.
I'm inspired by your sharing. I recently picked up an anonymous book, so it's specifically Overeaters Anonymous, and it's a 12-step program. I'm reading step 3, and essentially it goes, I can't, God can, and I think it's like let God or God will. And so the inspiration that's coming to me, I got a lot of affirmation from this book is to the extent that we let ourselves get out of the way, we begin to hear divine inspiration. And so if it's not about me, I can hear something tell me, like Arjuna, put this tulsi leaf here on the plate. It's like, well, why? Doesn't matter. Do it. And then you don't know the result of how the person sees that exact placement and how it moves them. And the same thing with Prabhupada House, right? Well, today I'm doing this. Why? Well, it doesn't matter why. It's not about me, right? Mm-hmm. And to the extent that we can get out of the way, it's a way of thinking. It's joyfully performed, and I don't know how else to explain it except when you put the leaf on the plate, there's this little bit of bliss and there's this taste of joy because you connected, and it's transrational. You don't know why.
Thanks for that. Thank you, Rasamrita. Yeah. You just get ourselves out of the way. I mean, get material mind. There's a verse 6.7 in Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna says, when the mind is controlled and peaceful, false ego goes out of the way, then naturally super soul is reached. Super soul. We talk about the higher guidance within, higher intelligence. The Sanskrit term is paramatma, the super soul in the heart. And then we're getting guidance from Super Soul, and that's the pure devotee. There's no material ego, no material mental chatter, no baggage from the past, no lamenting or hankering, and then it's just guidance from Super Soul, which sometimes that guidance might seem to make sense. Sometimes it's just like, this is trans-rational. This is trans-rational. And so through the bhakti process, the mind's controlled, and then more and more. But even a jnana process, or even a vipassana process, or like that, the idea is control the mind, and then more and more connection with that higher guidance within. Hare Krishna. Any other comments or questions?
I want to share one thing, just that one of our neighbors, we have one set of neighbors who really kind of isolate, they're on our street, but they keep to themselves, a couple. And when we first moved in, I would take prasadam around the neighborhood. After we had a program, I would take it and just take plates to everybody. And they weren't very friendly, and so they kind of opened the door and took the first plate, but just kind of shut it and didn't say anything. And so all these years have gone by, and I didn't go there again, and they never tried to introduce themselves or talk to us, and everybody else is really open, so I just went, oh, whatever, that's a really low average of rejection, so I'm going to just accept it. And then when I was about the house across the street, they lived next door to that house, so they came over because he's a contractor, and he did a walkthrough with us one day. And he said, I'm just really sorry for not speaking to you guys all these years. And he said something, he said something to us, he's like, I owe you an apology. And then he said, and his wife didn't say anything, she wasn't there that day. So then a couple of weeks later, I was driving down the street, and I rolled the window down because she was in the street walking, and I said hello to her. And she said, you know that plate of food you delivered to us? This was 2020, and she told me this the other day.
Wow.
And she said that was the best food I've ever eaten. But she had never come out of the house to say anything or told anybody. So all those years went by, and I finally found out that she actually liked it. And I was thinking, I don't want to go to the people's house that won't open the door and stick their hand out.
Yeah.
I thought they probably threw it away, and you just don't ever know.
Thanks for it's confirmation to never underestimate the power of prasadam.
Yeah, the husband and wife both complimented us.
Yeah.
When we finally saw them face to face, but we have to approach them because they weren't, whatever reason, they weren't approaching us until it became absolutely in your face, and then they both had good things to say.
Thanks for sharing that. It's like one plate of prasadam. 5.5, 6 years ago. We laugh because it's food as opposed to philosophy, a Bhagavad Gita class, or an amazing kirtan. But that's the three things. So the philosophy, kirtan, japa, and prasadam. And so one plate of prasadam, it changed the whole trajectory of their existence. That's a powerful story.
Yeah.
Of course, my history wasn't about one plate; it was about more than 1,000. But that's the thing. So one plate of prasad, and it was just it made an impact.
But my mind kept me from going back there.
Yeah.
I didn't stop going to the rest of the neighbors. I just thought they're going to shake me or something. They're not friendly. So I was wrong.
Hare Krishna.
Ultimately, they're just happy that the people that have their own dogs are gone, and that we don't have dogs. Probably that's mixed up in their material motivation, but ultimately he was friendly and she was complimentary of the prasadam. So at first it was probably to do with the dogs, and now they see that we don't bite and we're kind people and the food's good and that kind of stuff. So there's more to come. The door's open. Like I said earlier, the door's now open. So
Doors open, hearts are opening.
Yeah, for sure.
Just want to thank you for class, Dhira Govinda, and say that this verse is very inspirational to me in regards to, it's very much about compassion and what is real compassion. I think the other day we read a verse and the purport was talking about welfare activities, and I had a similar response about what welfare activities are we talking about? What is real welfare? So I I'll need to hear it probably 100 more times before I get it, but thank you.
Thanks for sharing that. Okay. Sylvan.
Um, Funny you talked about super soul when the mind quiets down. This morning I was looking at chapter 16 and the two birds on the tree,
Yeah.
and somehow it took me to so super soul and intuition and conscience. And I wonder if those three words mixed together might inspire you.
Thank you. Super soul, intuition, and conscience. Yeah. I mean, I can see them in a valid way being used interchangeably in a synonymous way. I mean, yeah. I mean, also we can make distinctions. For me, it would be like an interesting research on like the database about like every time Prabhupada uses conscience, intuition, super soul at the same time. I mean, it's very interesting what Bhagavatam says about intuition. Ultimately, though, our intuition comes from super soul, whether spiritual or material. Prabhupada will sometimes like say like a little puppy is born, and it immediately knows where to go to get the mother's milk. Right? It doesn't need to be trained. So probably that's intuition. And so you can say it's material. It's about eating, but it comes from super soul. Super soul is the supreme facilitator. Super soul is the supreme facilitator and will facilitate our desires through material energy or spiritual energy, depending on the quality of our desire. And yeah, so intuition comes from super soul, and conscience. Yeah, to the extent that I'm connected with super soul, I'm clear what it means to take the high road and to live from principle and to live from my integrity and to live on purpose in the higher sense. And to the extent that I'm listening to material mind and ego, then probably I'll act in ways that are alienating me from conscience and principle, and I'm just I'll do things and say things that are meant to just reinforce my image or deceptive ways and looking good strategies. So I would say either synonymous or lots of resonance in parallel: conscience, intuition, and super soul. And I just briefly spoke a few things there.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I asked for. No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvan. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.